Welcome to the Cincy PostCast. I'm Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery, and we are so excited to be working with Streetside this season. They are an amazing Cincinnati brewery located over on the east side of Cincinnati in the Columbia Tusculum neighborhood. Their brewery is just an amazing mix of like modern laboratory of brewing and just great neighborhood drinking hole. Absolutely love it. They brew any and every type of beer. So anybody that you bring with you to Streetside, and you should bring people with you to Streetside, is going to find a beer that they like. And if you haven't checked them out, well, this weekend is the perfect opportunity because we are hosting another live show from Streetside from 4 to 6 leading up to FC Cincinnati's season finale in Philadelphia. Come on out. It's going to be a good time. There's going to be prizes. There's going to be games. There's going to be giveaways. And very excited to announce, we will have Laurel Thaler there from Queen City Press. We will have an awesome time. Please come out, check it out. It's going to be a ton of fun. And when you do come on out to Streetside, mention the PostCast and they will knock $1 off of each of your beers off of your tab. Not a bad deal. So a huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring the PostCast. And thank you, listener, for coming on out this weekend. And on today's episode, well, you might have thought there wasn't much FC Cincinnati news, and you'd be correct, but that is not to say that there is nothing to talk about. A big topic in this one, CONCACAF Champions Cup, or as we like to call it, CONCACAF Champions League. How can FC Cincinnati qualify? What are the risks to qualification? And Chief asks, do we want to qualify? Interesting question. It leads to a very meta conversation about in-season tournaments and the general flow of MLS. Very stop-start season and league generally with this one. We also go way deep into meta conversations, meta narratives on the league itself. What is necessary to drive international attention for this league? Would an LAFC Inter Miami final actually move the needle there? And we even have a very brief soccer blog book club at the end discussing, you know, what has Messi's impact been? So you add that all up and you have yourselves a very meta episode of the PostCast. Joining me to talk about all of that and more, joined by the Chief. Chief, how does this Sunday evening find you?
Oh, it's great. You know, nothing going on with the FC, struggling for content as we await this final week of the season, of the regular season. I got the Bengals going on the phone right over here.
Yep.
Baker Mayfield and the Bucks with a massive win today. You know, it's a good recipe for a great Sunday. Dinner with the in-laws on the west side. Just a great Cincinnati Sunday right here.
I had a Buskin cookie earlier, so you know it's kind of the same thing.
Love it. Love it. It's just these it's so weird. This league is so difficult to get into and to stay into because every time you think like, oh, momentum, narrative, things going on, just so they pull the handbrake and we're stopping again.
Yeah.
And I know this is an international window, I think, this go around. So
it is, yeah.
Hooray. We got to see Mauricio Pochettino and the national team have a very, very similar result to
struggle their asses off against Panama.
Right. Sure. And it's like, I get it. It's his first time in, whatever. That's not the point. The point is just that this is, at some point, I understand FIFA is going to FIFA and they're just going to look to make as much money as possible. Yeah. The international windows are a little much. It's a little much. I get it. Like when it's the Gold Cup or the Euros or there's some big tournament to play for. but releasing these players to these federations for cash grabs, wouldn't they just be better off collecting like a tithe from all of these clubs? And just like you can pay the tithe, and we're gonna do away with a lot of these international friendlies and stupid games that nobody cares about.
Or find like a bigger chunk of time to do all of the international stuff in. Like, I think it was actually Arsene Wenger had the idea of just like every like June or whatever. I think it was like the 15th of June to the 15th of July. So a 1 month chunk, that's just international soccer time. And that's it.
Yeah,
you run your international tournaments, your qualifications, whatever you need to. You get a whole month. And if you don't have anything going on, you don't have anything going on. And then no league just schedules that 1 month chunk.
Yeah. But you could even do it like the June and then pick a month in the winter. January, December, one and the other. And then there's always this window, always that window. And anything you want to schedule, you can send your national team on tour to raise money. That can be when your tournament is. That can be when, you know, the Euros or the Gold Cup or whatever the hell you want to do. Just this is sort of unsustainable, it feels like, with as much money as club soccer brings in and with as much money as these clubs are paying players. I don't know. It's just, I hate this. And I don't want to hate national team soccer, but like, it's weird how I used to be super into the U.S. men's national team specifically.
Yeah.
Almost as soon as FC Cincinnati got here, it was like, sure, cool. And now
it's fun when there's a connection to Cincinnati. Yeah.
Right. And so all for what? So that they played this game last night. Like, and you know, you could have set a nuclear explosion off during the game. I wouldn't have known because I was watching Ohio State and Oregon, like every other red-blooded American in this country.
Right.
Like, what are we doing here?
It's not good. And then like, okay, so obviously there's like an ideal way to do this, but even given that we know these international windows literally years in advance, FIFA schedules them 3-4 years in advance. There's no reason why decision day couldn't have been before this. And then this could have been the break leading up to the playoffs. Right.
Yeah. You could have forced some team to, like, part of your punishment for playing in the wild card round could have been you got to play during the international window. And sorry if some of your players aren't around. And if you want to bitch about that, do better during the regular season. Regular season matters a little bit more.
Right. Or like the Friday coming out of the international break. So maybe your international guys are there, but they've got 24 hours to integrate into the club or whatever, back with the team. Yeah, there's got to be a better way to manage this from MLS because, it is a struggle right now to come up with like more interesting storylines that haven't been the storyline for FC Cincinnati for like 3 weeks now. Right.
We're just sort of like, we're continuing to circle, waiting for a landing to happen. And the international window becomes a convenient sort of scapegoat here, but it's not just this window. It's all sorts of, it's like this league starts and stops and starts and stops. And there's no sense of momentum ever. Like, I got the Bengals game on right here off to the side. Joe Burrow, wheels, by the way, in the first quarter. But like the NFL is so good at this idea of the season starts, every team gets one bye week, but the rest of the time it's just a nonstop freight train right to the end. There is no week to catch your breath. There is no week where the league goes away. Everything is life and death on every single weekend, and it all leads to the conclusion, you know, in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl, and then the league goes away for 6-7 months or however long it is. I don't know. It's just, I feel like in this country, MLS could learn a lot from that. And instead, MLS is learning all the wrong lessons, like pausing the league to do the League's Cup, where it just kills all of the momentum of what you're doing. And then off for this international window, off for that international window. And it's just, man, there's so much else other stuff going on. Like, did you miss MLS this weekend? Did you miss FC Cincinnati this weekend?
I would have liked FC Cincinnati, but especially this time of year, there is more than enough to keep your attention. If you're a sports fan, even if you're not, a football fan, we got playoff baseball. That's been very exciting and very fun to watch. Like,
right.
It's tough.
I will give soccer this, though. I will give MLS this. I will give Apple TV this. Watched a lot of soccer on Apple TV. As best I can tell, they should be lauded for the fact that it is possibly the only refuge right now from alternating Bernie Moreno, Sherrod Brown commercials on literally everything.
My daughter literally yelled, I hate this Sherrod Brown, because all we've gotten is anti-Sherrod Brown ads in our house.
Political advertising working. I found the person who it works on. I have no idea. I always wondered to myself, who's the person that's convinced to vote one way or the other because they see this commercial? I have an answer now. Finally.
You honestly could run a more effective political campaign, again, for a 6-year-old.
Right.
if it was just, you are not able to watch your YouTube video right now because Brown is in office, and if you get him out, you will not have your YouTube videos interrupted anymore. Every 18-year-old high school kid is voting for Sherrod Brown to leave.
What about a politician that said that if you provide proof that you have voted for me, I will ensure that you get ad-free service for the remainder of the election cycle? Like, as long as you can prove, you show me a photo of your early voting with my name filled in, and then as a reward, you will not have to see any more political ads for the rest of the cycle. I will absolve you of any further advertising.
I mean, just running on banning pre-roll ads in the state of Ohio would be pretty good. That's a pretty good platform.
There's a there.
I was just going to say, it works in some European countries. Like Albania, I'm pretty sure all digital advertising is illegal. So if you've got a VPN and you don't have any reason to be in a certain country or another, I think it's Albania. There's a couple others that you make yourself from over there and you'll never see an ad.
God, that would be so nice right about now. See, that's where MLS really should be really leading the charge by saying, look, you may not love our product, but guess what? We don't have any political ads.
That is genuinely a selling point of Season Pass. The other thing is, too, it's I love knowing where all of the games are. I hate this, there's the early morning London football game, but wait, is that on CBS or is it on Paramount or is it on, oh God, do I have to find my Hulu login? Oh man.
Oh yeah, just try doing the same thing for who has the rights to the Big Ten right now. Right. If you're looking for a Big Ten game, where is it?
Right. In that particular Big Ten game. Oh no, that's the Big Ten Network exclusive game, but then they flexed it over to Fox, but it's actually got bumped to Fox Sports 1 because the other one, oh my God, you just run down.
And then the other game is running late, so it's going to start on Fox Sports 2. Yeah.
Right.
That is to say, there's a lot going on. Not a lot going on with FC Cincinnati, unfortunately.
No, but Chief,
yes,
there's a lot going on with the Post.
Yes, tell me more.
We've got a live show this weekend.
We do. Some of you do.
Decision day. Oh man, it does not sound like we'll have a Chief there. However,
maybe live via some sort of a communication device. We'll see.
I think we can find a way. But Chief, I am excited to let you know and the world know, even though I probably will mention it at the beginning of this episode in the ad that I've yet to record. Laurel Thaler, Queen City Press, and one of just a handful of MLS beat writers in this league, will be joining us at Streetside. Does this make you want to cancel your trip now?
Kinda, actually. If for no other reason than to just leave the viewers and the listeners wondering, following her appearance, will she be banned from the Post, from covering any further coverage of the Post?
We will immediately
revoke her credentials. No, I'm excited. That's really cool. A different perspective on the club, probably a good time to meet with Laurel and talk with Laurel ahead of decision day, ahead of this team's entry into the MLS Cup playoffs, as covered by the Post and presented by Audi.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it'll be, I'm eager to hear what she has to say about this team and just sort of get a little bit more long form thoughts about like what Laurel's seeing and training every day when she goes, and where she thinks this club is at, and maybe give some context and some pointers to us in terms of where our critique is valid and where our critique may be ill-informed.
Yes. It's probably mostly ill-informed, but it would be good to hear that.
But it's always nice to know that, like, we suspect we're wrong a lot. It's nice to sometimes have that confirmed, I think.
That's true. You don't want to think you're wrong and actually be right. Ugh. I am also happy to report that I went to Streetside this week and brought all of my bags of equipment and tested the audio. Chief, we will not be blasting everybody with one monitor at the back of the corner. We will be tapping into the full audio system. It sounded very nice, very professional. Very excited to get it all set up. So
this fully armed and operational brewery sound system, if you will.
It is gonna be so good. There's gonna be some giveaways, so people should definitely show up. I've been working on getting some prizes. There's gonna be games. I am very excited about this. However, Chief.
Yes.
Even though we will have you live via satellite, we will, because we're able to do the audio this way, we will be able to record it and hopefully post it online pretty quickly. So
there we go.
If you can't attend, we'll have that. And it'll be mostly evergreen. Obviously, there will be a game that happens immediately following it, which we will probably be talking about at some point throughout that show. But there will be a bunch of other stuff that'll be fun and worth listening to. So I think people will like it.
And if you didn't join us for our first live show at the start of the year, which now feels like forever ago, back in the before time, it was a great time. Honestly, it was great to see a bunch of people out there. Great to see some faces from the Discord. Streetside, if you haven't been, great place to watch a game. Great place to hang out before a game as well.
Yep.
Great beer this time of year, especially as we get into dark beer season. Love that for us. Love that for Streetside. Come on down. It'll be a lot of fun. Say hi. You don't even need to be a Patreon member to participate in the live show. It's open to everyone.
that is true.
No shame for non-Patreon members on this. It's a lot of fun. It's a blast. You can also make Grayson very uncomfortable by coming up and asking him to introduce himself. So there you go.
Yes. Ask Grayson lots of personal questions when you get the opportunity.
Ask him how many different animals he's been chased by in foreign countries.
it's more than one.
Yes. Which is shocking.
Chief, there's another thing with Streetside that I learned while I was there, and I don't think we can take credit for this, but I am going to take credit for this.
Absolutely.
They have a collaboration coming out soon with not a bottle shop, not a brewery, but with a t-shirt company. Chief, could you imagine what t-shirt company they may be working with?
Oh, could this be synergistic in any way?
I think so. I think this is the brands coming together moment that, again, I don't think we can take credit for, but I'm going to take credit for.
I need to know how many more live shows we need to do before we have our own beer release party.
Ooh. We need people to show up to the live show, and then I bet we could talk them into it.
What I need you to do when you go to the Streetside live show is, number one, I need you to use the promo code ThePostCincy. Get $1 off your pints. Show them that you're supporting the show, so they're there for the live show, and ask them. I've heard rumors about a collab beer with the PostCast. When is Chief's Hop Take going to be released? His New England IPA.
Chief's Hop Take is so good. Oh, Chief, if you're not there, that means I'll probably have to drink it. There is the Cincy shot that I assume will be at full strength by then.
Yeah. You know what? I'll commit to doing that. I will commit to doing, if you want to wait on that, I will commit to doing a shot of that with you at the first road playoff game if we all get together to watch that.
Which
obviously we've got at least one road playoff game to play, I think.
Yes, we will have at least one road playoff game. Assuming that goes well, we will likely have a lot more, but
there you go. More opportunities to visit Streetside and use the promo code. That's a win-win for everybody involved, I think.
Absolutely.
Did you ever think we'd be doing live shows when we first started this out?
No, not at
Plural.
all.
Live shows, plural.
Multiple live shows. I wasn't sure we'd make it to a third season, so that is pretty good.
Third episode, I think, was a stretch from my point of view.
That is true. I think like the first 10 episodes start with us all saying like, wow, it's crazy. We have continued to release episodes.
We're still doing this, apparently. Still happening.
So yeah, no, it's been a hell of a journey, and excited to have everybody along for the ride. So yeah, if you're able to come out to Streetside.
Unlike the Cincinnati subway, we're finishing what we started.
God.
If you haven't picked up on it on Twitter yet, I am all in on restart the subway and finish the subway. Not joking that I kind of, maybe have some free time coming up in my personal life that might be used to start a pro subway political action committee. Why? Because why not? Let's build the subway.
That's the only way it's going to get built is if people ask for it to be built. So
yes,
that seems fair.
You wouldn't love that first experience of getting off the subway and coming up from underground right in front of TQL Stadium.
Oh, look, it's like it's got so much going for it that like the streetcar is nice for what it is, but like every time there's an event on the streets, they have to close the streetcar, which does seem to defeat the purpose of the streetcar. Subway, you're not holding any events underground, so that'll just be running 24/7, weatherproof essentially. I love it.
If you're a listener, if you're one of the 12 and you have any urban planning experience or urban transit experience, or anything about the Cincinnati subway, I think we should do a Cincinnati subway centric episode at some point during the off season. Yes. Let's all just learn about the subway together.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to know something about it.
Probably. I bet you Ronnie Salerno has been in it.
I guarantee you Ronnie's been in it. I know that for a fact. Maybe not legally, but he's been down there, I'm sure.
I don't know if too many people are legally allowed to be there regardless, but there used to be a very open door near Camp Washington that just about anybody could squeeze their way into.
Right. And there was also they used to let people down on Central Parkway. They would lead occasionally. You could go down into one of the stations and check it out.
Yeah, man.
We're gonna do this. I've never been more psyched about thinking this is actually gonna happen in my adult life. I think we're gonna do it.
Based on where it pops out, I'm thinking too, if you can get up to at a minimum Cincy State, you could get up Ludlow on the regular streetcar without the grade being too steep. It's not like Straight Street or a Ravine or even Vine Street coming out of OTR.
Let's go big. We're going big. We got to go big. Go big or go home.
Easy.
Yeah.
Oh,
$1 million asset. We're going to put it to use finally. God damn it. That first ride to TQL is going to hit different.
Oh my God. Oh God, Chief, it's gonna happen. I'm on board with this.
Like I said, hit DMs open if you want to be a guest on the subway roundtable. Subway, if you want to be as an expert or you want to sound off on the subway, hit me up. We're gonna plan that episode in the off season.
I love a subway off season episode.
Yeah,
Chief.
Subway and Sundance. We're gonna do 2 parts. One on Subway, one on Sundance. We're going to bring this city into the 21st century together on the PostCast.
Ooh, we should say, apparently, either some wrong information was out there or information has changed. We were originally told Sundance we would know sometime in October. It now looks like we are going to learn in after Sundance 2025, which will put us sometime in probably late February. So that timeline's pushed out just a couple of months.
It's good. We can keep banging the drum. More time to show off our candidacy here. I like that.
That is a good point. Every day that it isn't awarded to not us is another day.
Another day it could be us. Another day it could be us. We are in. So this is my favorite sort of time is when we are in. It might be us territory.
Yes.
We're in. It might be us for Sundance. We're in. It might be us for restarting the subway. We're still in it. Might be us for NWSL. There was some bogus information out there about Cleveland that I have. I'll go ahead and say it. I've heard pretty conclusively is absolutely false. So that
that they have been invited.
That they have been invited. They've definitely had NWSL visit, and they definitely still have a bid, but been told we're going to get a visit as well. So the NWSL has not made any decisions yet. But like, this is a fun place to be in when you're under consideration and you can think to yourself, oh, this might be happening.
Yeah.
And then you picture out what this city looks like in 5-10 years, where you got a subway, you got a NWSL team playing here, when you can take the subway to the Sundance Film Festival. Like, baller.
Man, it does remind me of MLS bidding time. And I'll never forget being like really disappointed to the point of like really upset with our ownership group that we didn't also buy an ad in Times Square like the Tampa Bay Rowdies.
Do you remember the Rowdies hand delivered their bid book that was like covered in AstroTurf or something like that? Yeah.
Yes, that plus the ad in Times Square made me think like, oh, Tampa Bay is trying.
Yeah.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
What are we doing? Apparently working behind the scenes like normal people and not wasting our money on ads that like nobody reads or sees.
Nobody of any importance is going to read.
Right. It's the MLS people are just sitting here thinking to themselves, man, you know, we've got all these cities to choose. Cincinnati checks all these boxes. They've got this, they've got this, they've got this. But Tampa bought the billboard. I don't know. Hard to see who's the better of these two, man. It's like a lot of stuff going on for that Tampa billboard.
Man, do you think MLS would ever want to go to Tampa just to like reclaim the Miami and Tampa markets so that all of the original markets have a team back?
I actually do. I actually think that's probably the biggest. I won't say it's the biggest. It's a non-insignificant reason to do that, is that now, you know, there have been 3 teams that have folded in MLS history: the Miami Fusion, Tampa Bay Mutiny, and Chivas LA.
Yep. And
so there's a second team in LA again, LAFC. There's a team in Miami again. Tampa is the only team that doesn't have that back. I mean, even I think San Jose relocated to Dallas maybe, but then they put a team back in San Jose again.
Houston,
under the same old, under the same old branding. Yeah, I think there is something to the idea of that. Like, okay, MLS truly has no defunct markets, and not for nothing, I think MLS would do well down in Tampa. Honestly, good city, good sports town, and as long as they put it on the Tampa side, because it sounds like the baseball thing is going to stay in St. Pete. So you have one summer thing on the Tampa side, one thing on the St. Pete side. Yeah, I'd be down for it. That would be an electric away day too, down to Tampa. And then that would be a neat little Tampa, Orlando, Miami little pod of teams to hate one another. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that would be. I could see it. Tampa's also like, if you consider Tampa Bay at large the media market, it's like them and Detroit are like the only top 10 markets not in MLS at this point, and like Phoenix is knocking on the door. I think they're like 11th or 12th. Right. But yeah, it would make a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons to put a team down there.
We're about that time, aren't we? When like we should start hearing some expansion talk heat up for MLS again. Yeah.
So with San Diego, we'll have 30 teams. 32 feels inevitable. I really think
40 feels inevitable.
Right.
20 and 20.
20 and 20, or I think a really good number would be 38 or 36. So what that lets you do is play everybody once, and then the next year you switch home and away. So then you have your quote unquote balanced schedule, and you just kind of do away with East and West, and then playoffs is the top 14 teams or whatever.
Right. Or you could go to, with 38 teams, it would be what, a 37 game schedule?
Yeah.
So then I would say you go to a 38 game schedule and you guarantee that whatever your rival is, you get a home and away with your rival then.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
And then go to that chart that they filled out and figure out like who each team's rival is as voted on by the fans.
Oh, but so many of those like three-way rivalries, like Vancouver is going to get stuck with somebody that's like,
yeah, that's great. Let's make a new friend. Make a new frenemy.
Vancouver and oh God, Minnesota. Like, oh yeah, no, it's not good.
Yeah. Love that for us.
It's nice having a rivalry that's like real.
Yeah. Good people. Love that. Yeah, no, it feels like we should be getting back to that too. I don't miss those days though. I don't miss the MLS bid days. I don't think that that's a
yeah.
I mean, it's fun. It's fun thinking that you could have something, but man, that was stressful because I really like if we don't get Sundance at the end of the day, I'm going to be bummed because it's somebody telling our city no. But like there would have been some existential crises and existential issues if we would have missed out on the MLS bid.
Yeah, I think that is fair. I think that like if we missed out on MLS, I think the version of FC Cincinnati looks a lot more like, I don't know, like Memphis and not Louisville, where like we end up at like a 5,000 person stadium in Mason, like as a part of the tennis complex, and Carl eventually sells the team. Yeah. I don't think he actually wants to own a minor league team.
Yeah, there wouldn't have been a version where it was like, oh, we're now the new vanguard leading the way for a pro rail reform in MLS or anything like that. That ain't the way it's gonna work.
No, it was going to be hey, maybe we can work out an affiliate deal with the Crew and we'll offer a nice minor league baseball atmosphere to the soccer families of the northern burbs.
In that timeline, do you think the Crew gets saved or not? Like, because I have to think a reason why they finally. The number one reason was Modell's Law, but number two, obviously, they were like, well, I mean, we do have Cincinnati coming in. It could be a neat rivalry.
I've wondered if like they thought Crew fans would just become Cincinnati fans.
I mean, they would have
eventually.
It would have taken like a decade or two, but like they would have all come around. I mean, they might still when the team moves to Cleveland.
Right. They will. They will when the team moves to Cleveland. There's a reason why the Haslams are like bidding on like the NWSL with the largest NWSL specific stadium in Cleveland. Like, yeah, for now.
Yeah.
Right up until, Mbappe plays for LA Galaxy and he comes to play at the Crew and they want him in Cleveland.
Right. They want a bigger facility to ensure they can sell more tickets. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. The Crew would be interesting because then you could still, because this is the funny thing, you would still move the Crew to Austin, and then you would still sell an expansion bid to the Haslams, but they would just immediately start in Cleveland.
Cleveland, yeah.
Yeah. And then we could be whatever, right? It would be fine, but
I'm glad this timeline doesn't exist. As annoying as MLS is, I can't imagine being anywhere else at this point. God, that timeline where TQL doesn't exist downtown. Where would the subway stop? Like, it would be a hollow victory to have a subway there and no TQL.
Maybe there's maybe in this weird timeline, Carl is now free from the MLS so he can give more money to UC and like UC buys a downtown stadium. And
we build Jeff Birding's arena and we're the ones bidding on the Phoenix Coyotes instead.
Yes, actually, maybe in that world, we end up with an NHL franchise in the West End.
Oh man, that would be pretty dope too.
It would
I know we're a soccer podcast, but that would be pretty dope too.
You would split the NHL and UC basketball would share an arena in the West End.
Yeah, the Cincinnati Hockey Club, like the Utah Hockey Club, that would be pretty. Cincinnati HC. HCC. Yeah, this is like one of those sci-fi shows where you go to you switch to the other timeline and you're like, oh, this is a little off right here. But like you still have fans marching to the match in the West End, but they're all wearing hockey sweaters instead.
It's the same but different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man,
same
this
exact
would be a
energy.
hockey podcast to be a whole thing.
But the post, it would be off the post Cincy would just be a hockey goal instead of like the soccer logo.
It's got curved edges. Yeah, that's the main difference.
That would be really funny, actually, as a podcast. Like record a podcast from the alternate timeline and just drop that into the feed. Like change the logo for one day and talk about the season opening victory over the Pittsburgh Penguins. Wild.
Oh, then there'd be the heated rivalry with the Blue Jackets and with the new blood. They become better. It'd be a whole thing. Ah, man.
Save the Blues.
I am kind of surprised that we haven't dropped like a alternate podcast in from Pride and Guard from Grayson. Maybe that's
I'm sure he wants to do that badly, so we should do that in an episode he's not around for.
It's just a random Pride and Guard where we get a transmission from, I think it's 400 years in the future. So
yes. Oh, I'm glad we don't have to worry about that. Kevin, what do we have to worry about? CONCACAF Champions Cup qualifications, I think, is the on the rundown right here.
It is, because this is complicated. And so really what I want to do here is offer up what I think is the situation we find ourselves in going into decision day, the final day of the regular season. And then
we should define that. We should define that, by the way. Decision day is just the term for the last day of the regular season where all the games kick off at the same time.
Yes.
Because I kept telling the wife that, oh, we're doing a live show for Decision Day, but we're not going to be around. And she's like, I have no idea what that means.
Fair enough. Decision Day, last game of the season. This is the day where we decide playoff seeding, or I guess playoff seeding is decided. It's not like a selection committee, thank God. FCC would be brutalized by a committee. No,
the committee would not love. We'd have a lot of good wins early in the season, but the committee would not love our form going into the tournament here.
It'd be pretty rough. So with that, CONCACAF Champions Cup qualification, the way I am reading it is we get 4 automatic berths for MLS. There's 2 berths for, I guess I should say Leagues Cup awards 3 berths. The winners, the runners up, and the third place team. So in this case, who won Leagues Cup? Oh yeah, that's right. Those guys.
I wish I could forget that too.
Crew wins that. LAFC and Colorado Rapids. Rapids are the team who finish 3rd in Leagues Cup. Then your Supporter Shield winners, Inter Miami, get an automatic berth. The Western Conference team, so the team opposite the Supporter Shield conference, so Inter Miami won Supporter Shield. They won the Eastern Conference by default. That means, in this case, the Western Conference winners will get in. In this case, that will be the LA Galaxy. LAFC cannot catch them. And then Sporting Kansas City gets in for winning the Open Cup. So that leaves us with the 2 next best clubs in the 2024 Supporter Shield standings that have not already qualified via other means. So again, as of recording, that is in order. Inter Miami already qualified, Supporter Shield. LA Galaxy already qualified. They won the Western Conference. Columbus Crew already qualified. They won Leagues Cup. LAFC, they won Open Cup. Yeah. What happened there? Or they were Leagues Cup runner-up. However you want to define it. That leaves us as 5th, Seattle Sounders in 6th, and Real Salt Lake in 7th. All 3 of those teams have not qualified.
They use Supporters Shield rankings, right?
Correct. Not anything else. So in the Supporter Shield rankings, we are 5th. Seattle is 6th. Real Salt Lake is 7th. These 3 teams that I mentioned, US, Seattle, RSL, tied on points.
But here's the question, though.
Yes.
If we remain tied on points, does CONCACAF break the tie using traditional international tiebreakers, which would be goal differential would be the first tiebreaker? Or is the tie broken by MLS where wins are the first tiebreaker and not goal differential?
So the way that it is defined is that it is the next 2 best clubs in the 2024 Supporters Shield standings. So
okay, so wins would be the tiebreaker.
Yeah, defaulting to MLS. So the best way to view this is win and we're in. If we win, at best, Seattle and RSL can match us, and we win by default because we've got more wins than them. So that means we will advance. If we were to draw and one of those 2 teams win, they will go to CONCACAF Champions Cup, and we will not. And then obviously, if we lose and one of them picks up a point, a draw or a win, they will advance over us. So
neat.
I know it's not like everybody's dream. However, it does come with a couple of benefits to being in CONCACAF Champions Cup. One of them is you get more GAM. I think it's like $200,000. I could be wrong about that, but there is a sort of defined amount. I don't have that in front of me, but you do get a hefty chunk of money.
There we go. Okay, because this team is gonna need it with the number of players we have that are over the max salary budget charge.
Yeah, any penny we can get from the league here is going to be beneficial. So that would be beneficial. The other one is it's just like good prestige and will help attract, obviously, free agents and anybody else who has options if we can offer them Champions Cup experience. I'm not saying it was the defining, aspect that got us, say, Miles Robinson, but it certainly doesn't hurt our chances to be able to say, hey, you can be put on the shop window against, some pretty big spenders in Mexico if you come here.
Right. Downside, as of right now, until they change the rules, it also means that you don't play in US Open Cup.
Yeah. Although it does sound like the rules are going to change there regardless. And my guess is they're still going to have the same split that they had last time, which is like CONCACAF Champions Cup attendees don't participate in Open Cup. My guess is they're going to let those teams submit their MLS Next Pro teams into Open Cup in their place. So yeah, something definitely to keep an eye on. The
GAM is a big tiebreaker right there because this team could use that money.
Yeah. I have not looked. Seattle will play Portland. So that's fun. And RSL will play Vancouver. I would expect RSL to win that, and I would expect Seattle to lose theirs. Don't ask me why, but that's how I could see those going.
So we got to win this game.
Yeah, winning is going to be key.
Winning. We should just win. We should win this game. Want to win this game regardless.
I don't know, Chief. As a soccer fan podcast, it's kind of a hot take to offer up that we want our team to win here.
The problem is Philly really needs to win this game too. Like really badly needs to win this game.
Yeah. So if Philly wins, there is a chance they find themselves in the playoffs. Not a great chance, but certainly a chance.
There's a chance. Yeah, they would be. Yeah, they're probably not going to make the playoffs, are they? Because they're on 37, 40 is the cut line right now. So any team, either DC or Montreal picking points up, pretty much secures them in. I think if either one of them picks a single point up, they're in.
Yeah.
Toronto's on 37, Atlanta United's on 37, but Toronto also has 11 wins, whereas Philly would only have 10 in this scenario. What's Philly's goal differential is way better than anybody else. So
yeah, weirdly good.
yeah,
It's like they're surrounded by negatives, and then weirdly they've got like a better
By,
goal
like,
differential than
odd levels of mediocrity. But then there's us up at the top where it's like Miami goal differential 26, Columbus 31, us 9.
It really just goes to show you like just how dominant Crew and Miami were this season, because nobody else is even close to that. Underneath us, Orlando has a goal differential of 10. So
I think the other reason I want Sundance to come to Cincinnati is that like what I would use my time for if Sundance came here is just attempting to convince Hollywood actors you need to hire Wilfred Nancy to like consult on your soccer movie. Like give him a job in Hollywood. Like literally anyone take this dude, take this moron out of Columbus. I'm just so sick of dealing with him.
His time has to be pretty short. Like
nobody wants him. Is he like the worst interview of all time? Like, does he show up and just botch interviews?
There's got to be somebody in France that wants him. Come on.
Right.
Come on. What are we doing here?
So if it weren't for GAM, would you care about making CONCACAF? Because like I experienced it for the first time, experienced it last year. You know what? It was fine. Yeah. It was okay. I don't think it's I said this on the Discord. I got some static for it. I don't think it's a better tournament demonstrably than the Leagues Cup.
That was a hot take.
No. All right. Let's talk it out then. Like, what is it? What is the Leagues Cup? Number one, it comes at a better time in the year. You're not at the start of your season. You know, your team is a little bit more in form. Number two, it gets right to the point. Like nobody cares. Like we played Cavalier. What a waste of time. Who cares? Yeah. That team was barely functional. I think they had I couldn't even tell who was in their league. Like that information was real hard to find. They played at like a stadium with a running track around the outside. Nobody cares. This gets right to the point. It gets rid of all these who cares leagues and gets right to Liga MX with versus MLS. The only thing that CONCACAF Champions Cup has on Leagues Cup is that they play games in Mexico and it's like home and away. You fix that, I don't see where Leagues Cup is a worse tournament than the Champions League.
Yeah, so they do not do home and away anymore. It is now highest seed hosts in Champions Cup, I think. Oh, no.
Really? Because we did last year. We went to Monterey and we went to.
I'm a liar. No, so they're doing home and away. Okay. Okay. So here's ultimately the argument, which is Leagues Cup winning it qualifies you for CONCACAF Champions Cup. Winning CONCACAF Champions Cup qualifies you for the FIFA Club World Cup. It's just like on the prestige ladder, it has to be lower. Even though the prize money is higher, that's fine. It awards it up higher. It's almost like you can imagine a world where like the Big Ten basketball conference tournament offers the winning team like $200 million. And that would be way more than the NCAA tournament. And every coach could tell you that winning the Big Ten tournament is their ultimate goal. But at the end of the day, it means going to the NCAA tournament and getting to play Bucknell in the first round. That's still the better tournament. That's the one everybody is actually trying to win.
Yeah.
I
get it. It's just like, I don't care about any of these other leagues. Like, I don't care about the Costa Rican league or the Jamaican league or the Honduran league. I don't care. Like, I'm interested in the US versus Mexico. Figure out a way to play both those games home and away and make that a little more fair. And that'll take my interest away absolutely immediately. And for the Club World Cup, cool. Is that actually going to happen next year? Because as last I heard, they don't have a TV network lined up to broadcast the thing. They don't have enough sponsor money to entice clubs to actually like take their players and come play in it. They got venues picked out, but that seems to be about it at this point.
Apple could come in and save this thing, right? Like,
it feels like our answer to everything. While the U.S. Open Cup is having a problem. Well, Apple could buy the rights, right?
And Apple did buy the rights to the Open Cup.
It's like the Reds just got dropped by Bally Sports. Well, Apple can come in and pick that
Apple
up,
could
right?
buy it, right?
Yeah.
Come on. You do, at a certain point, you have to sort of assume Apple will get rights to something else. Like, it's actually, I don't think, good if MLS is their only sports property. Like
they have some baseball, not a lot, but
they get 2 Friday night games throughout the season.
Yeah, no, they need some other properties just to get people subscribing to the service and like looking at other things and creating some sort of interest with it. But I don't know, like it feels like that's our go-to answer for everything. And they keep not buying things.
Yeah, they were allegedly very close to the Sunday Ticket, allegedly very close to Premier League.
Big Ten, I think, too.
And Big Ten, they had it there for a moment even. Allegedly were even the push behind adding USC and UCLA was Apple's insistence, and then didn't get the rights.
Yeah.
Apple hardcore California fans, not like the state, to be clear, not like Cal Berkeley.
Maybe if they would have sold some more of those useless VR headsets, maybe they would have had the cash to like actually outbid somebody.
You know, they released a short film for the VR headset. It's apparently getting rave reviews. So
cool. You know what it doesn't do? You know what apparently it doesn't do? It apparently doesn't do porn, and nobody wants to buy it because they can't watch porn on it.
Oh God, the what was that? What was that movie? Tropic Thunder taught me that the medium that porn picks is the one that wins.
Always one wins.
VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. That's the one that wins.
Right. And right now, it's probably what is the competitor? MetaQuest right now.
Yeah, the Meta Quest.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. If you go to somebody's house and they have an Apple VR headset, you're probably okay. You go to somebody's house and they have a Meta Quest headset, probably a gooner. You probably need to wash your hands before when you touch anything.
Yeah, no need to try that one out.
No. Is there somebody listening to this right now being like, wait, I own a Meta Quest? What?
I like to imagine somebody listening to it on their Meta Quest.
The first VR podcast that's audio only. That would be a great thing to do. So I guess gun to your head right now, do we qualify for CONCACAF Champions Cup based on what you see here?
Yes, I'm going to be confident and say we beat Philadelphia.
Cool.
So here's another reason why I want us to qualify. And I think this will convince you. In a lot of sports, there's sort of like a standard list of things you have to do in order to say it was a successful season. And obviously it's a sliding scale for different teams. Like for Ohio State and Alabama college football, it's like win a national title. It's kind of hard to not see that as your goal. But like for a lot of college programs, it's like win a New Year's bowl game, right? Like that's always a good one. Or now it will be making the college playoff. And the NFL, it's win your division. If you can win your division regularly, that's a good sign of a good team. You're regularly performing. Same in baseball. You want to be regularly winning your division. In MLS, making the playoffs isn't a good enough measure. Too many teams make it. It's way too easy to make it. But being the measure of regularly in CONCACAF Champions Cup, I think is a difficult enough measure that in order to do it, you have to be either in and around finals of tournaments or doing incredibly well during the regular season. And that to me is a much better measure of a team than just playoffs.
So it's just a shorthand for you had a successful season, that you qualified for the playoffs, you made Champions Cup.
It's like finishing top 4 in the Premier League, right? Like you didn't win, but like you get to be in the Champions League, and that's fun.
Yeah, but the Champions League is rad. CONCACAF Champions League kind of sucks compared to that. Like,
well, okay. UEFA is really going to test some people here with this new format, because the last match or two is going to be a lot of dead rubbers in UEFA's setup these days. So
yeah, you go play cool teams in cool places. Like I didn't want to go to Jamaica.
Jamaica's a cool place.
Yeah, the resorts are nice. The rest of the country's on a State Department watch list. Like,
hey, you see some of those Polish ultras. It's not exactly the most inviting of environments sometimes.
They all got road flares. You keep those in safety kits, my friend.
expired marine flares.
Sure, why not? Tifos of people getting shot in the head. It's neat.
Yeah, that's fun.
Normal stuff, right?
Oh, God, Chief. Okay, I'm glad you brought this up, and then we'll move on to part 2 here. Tifos. On the topic of tifos, I saw 2 tifos over the weekend that really, really brought me joy, seeing them very close to each other. One was Dortmund fans held up a massive display that said, UEFA Mafia, you only care about money, not football. I thought that was good.
It's accurate.
And then there was a tifo in Austin for the U.S. men's national team game against Panama that had a little postage stamp at the bottom, Chief.
I did see this.
The AT&T corporate logo and name on there. Corporate tifos from what I assume are the American Outlaws. I don't want to disparage the group without proof, but based on everything I know, they get sort of exclusive tifo rights to these games. I'm going to say that was the American Outlaws.
With their corporate partner, I believe it was AT&T down in the corner. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oof.
It's a tough look. We're
talking about the pirate code sometimes.
That is burning the pirate code and pissing on the ashes right there is what that is. Looking at the Dortmund tifo, all in English? Isn't that kind of like a little weird for Germany? Like,
so Dortmund,
usually they're pretty heavy into the German league.
You would think Dortmund is known for, and actually the aforementioned Polish ultras, particularly Legia Warsaw. By the way, if you want to look up some Legia Warsaw tifos, some good ones.
They're a little depressing.
They can be pretty rough. But they like to use English because I think they realize that their message travels faster via social media using English.
Love that.
Than German. Yeah. Very funny, globalized world moment.
Is there any sponsor locally that you think would be acceptable to if FC Cincinnati fans put a tifo with a corporate sponsor on it? Anything that would be acceptable to the pirate code?
Toyota. That's a joke for like 10 people.
Yeah, 10 people. That's what we call narrowcasting, not broadcasting right there.
I mean, you'd need like a name that is just like cool enough that like the name itself is sort of like trash talking or is so generically Cincinnati. Like you could see a world where like Skyline is on a tifo and it like makes sense, but
or like, something. I mean, like something that was like unique, like La Rosa is like a 3471111. If there was a reason to have like numbers in a tifo, you could see that being something going on there, something with that.
A buskin.
I'm surprised we didn't do they had the FCC2 game at TQL Stadium a couple days ago. That was the where they clinched supportership. I think they played it down at TQL. Like that would have been great to do an in Milford tifo. Like presented by Mike Castrucci or something like that.
It's a shame that FCC didn't end up in 4th place because then we could have had a Blake Maslin tifo.
Yeah.
Finishing in 4th.
Yeah. Not him. Not him. I don't know.
Yeah, like the breweries are great. Obviously, a street side tifo would be amazing, but I can't think of like a good name that's like, I don't know, punch you in the mouth brewery. It's like, oh yeah, cool. We'll put the punch you in the mouth logo on the tifo or whatever. I
would be in favor of bringing some like dead brands back to like use as themes for tifos. Like if there was ever a reason to have like a Johnny's Toys tifo. For
we need to hire a manager whose name is Johnny.
Johnny, yeah.
Just so we can name
we do that
Johnny's
tifo.
Toys.
Yeah. Or like if you were going to tell me we were going to have like a Swallens or a McAlpins or something like that, like defunct Cincinnati brand name that you can incorporate into a tifo.
Where it's like,
right, where you're designing it and like the people painting it are all like under 30 and it's like, I have no idea what the hell this is. Like, trust me, your parents will love this.
WKRP in Cincinnati feels like.
Yeah, it's about that, I think.
You know, so everybody always suggests that as a song, and I've definitely fallen into the camp of like, I've heard it, I would recognize the song. It has no meaning to me. And so like, again, most of the Bailey, I would say at this point, has never seen an episode from start to finish.
Right. Like you're only aware of it because you're supposed to be aware of it because you live in Cincinnati. And there's just a dearth of media and pop culture that mentions Cincinnati.
Yeah. I got that on like, it's like a telemarketer, like customer service call or whatever. And it was a younger guy on the other end. He's like, oh, Cincinnati, WKRP. I was like, how do you know this?
Right.
You're not from Cincinnati.
What are you watching this show for, man? You sound like you're 20.
Right. What are you doing?
Like even a news radio, like, reference would feel dated at this point.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's like a deep cut for Rogan fans.
Right. God, the magic of FC Cincinnati. Is there any other news with this club right now that we need to be aware of or we need to be thinking of? It seems like all quiet on the FC front in terms of training, in terms of what's going on with the team.
We'll get more this week. So unfortunately, as of time of recording, we don't have much to go off of. But with practice, I assume opening up this week, we'll get some injury updates. We'll see who's with the team, not with the team. We'll see Miles Robinson if he features more against Mexico for the national team. See how that might impact his preparation for Philadelphia. So more to come on Wednesday's episode. I guess we record on Wednesday, Thursday's episode on that front. The only piece of news I have here, Chief, it's not a fun piece of news, but basically, again, as of recording, there's nothing new or even necessarily anything good we can report on Marco Angulo. So
just keep them in your thoughts, keep them in your prayers, whatever it is that you do. Thinking about someone, young man is fighting for his life and fighting for his future right now. So keep that sort of in the back of your head down there. Yeah. Hopefully we'll get some good news soon on him.
Yeah. Chief, and with that, let's head on over to part 2. Got a Soccer Blog book club and a Patreon question I want to ask you.
All right.
Let's do it. Oh, and before we get to the next part of the episode, I do want to tell you about our friends over at Cincy Shirts. They have been with us from the beginning. They were one of the very first supporters of FC Cincinnati. They were our very first sponsor here at the Post. We absolutely love them. They have the best gear for all of your Cincinnati sports, Cincinnati memorabilia. You got a fun community that you're a part of. They probably have a relevant Cincy shirt for you on their website or in one of their 3 locations. They're in Oakley Hyde Park, they're in Loveland, and they're over in Fort Mitchell in Kentucky. Really, really good people. They will print on demand in their shop. If they have a design on their website that they are not, if they don't have stock in their store, they will print on demand for you. They are awesome. One thing that I promise you they will never have stock of, but absolutely do sell, are the Post shirts. They have shirts from us. We have made designs that are up on the website. You can find a link to them in the description of this episode. Go check them out in person, and if you tell them which design you want printed on a shirt right then and there, they'll do it for you. It's great, and I know it's great because I've been able to do it myself. Really good folks. And hey, while you're there picking up Post merch or Bengals merch or anything else, you drop this code, ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps, get 10% off your next order. Again, the promo code is ThePostCincy. 10% off your next order for anything from Cincy Shirts. It's an awesome, awesome deal. Click the link in the description below as well for links to our merch. Otherwise, a huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring this episode. And thank you, listener, for using that code. All right, we are back. And Chief, we brushed right up against this topic in the last part, but I definitely want to call this out specifically. And there's 2 pieces here, but I want to start with Steve Haldeman's Patreon question. And by Patreon question, I mean, hey, if you like the show, or even if you don't like the show, honestly, you can support us financially by giving us a mere $2 a month. Is the show worth it? Probably not, but you can do it. It is an option made available to you. And as a part of your perks package, which is very thin, you do get to ask us a question. And once a month, you get to ask that question. We answer it to the best of our abilities, which is not usually, not always. I will say it's usually very good. It's not always good. We will answer
Sometimes
your question.
Good. Sometimes good.
And Steve asks a good question, especially as we are fast approaching playoff time. He asks, would an LAFC versus Inter Messi MLS Cup final actually move the needle on MLS internationally? I think it's a good question, but I'm curious your answer.
I think it would be well viewed, but I don't know that it would change anything about the narrative of MLS or the league. It's interesting that he asked this question. The aforementioned Mauricio Pochettino did a press conference that was pretty interesting, and I'm sure is being covered to death on USMNT podcasts and Twitter, where he basically said that there needs to be a change in the way things are handled with the national team, to the point where just being in Europe is not going to guarantee your selection for the men's national team. That if you are not playing in Europe, if you're just riding the bench somewhere, this seemed like a pretty direct reference to Gio Reyna would be the number one person on this list. But that if you're not playing in Europe, you're not going to necessarily be selected over someone that's in form, that's playing in some place like MLS. And he specifically said, MLS has become a better league. It is being known for its quality. He specifically cited to Messi playing there. So I think all of that is to say this idea that like MLS is sort of being seen as a better league internationally. And I didn't know this either, that apparently the match between FC Cincinnati and Inter Miami set a record for most number of people watching it on, I believe, like Fubo or Pluto TV.
Yeah. Which, if you've not checked out Pluto TV, it's kind of a neat little service. They call it FAST, FAST TV. It's like basically free cable, but it's weird. So if you've not checked it out, check it out. But yeah, continue, Chief.
But so anyway, like I think that an LAFC Inter Miami MLS Cup final would be watched around the world a lot. I think especially if they had some places where it was being picked up for broadcast. I don't know. Does MLS Cup get broadcast over the air on Fox still, or is it still on Apple exclusive?
That's a good question.
I don't know, because like I fully checked out last year, right around MLS Cup, and I couldn't tell you how you watch it. I'm going to be honest with you, because I didn't.
I want to say they have a simulcast on Fox Sports 1, but I'm not confident in that answer.
So I guess depending on availability, I mean, I think it'll be watched, but I don't think the Messi signing is moving the needle on MLS. I just don't. I think that if there's been a flaw with how Messi has been handled by the league, that the league has turned Inter Miami into this like Harlem Globetrotters traveling circus. And what they were really missing was the opportunity to create a couple of rivals.
Yes.
And like what this league is so desperate for, I think, is that when you think of any good league around the world, obviously there's one team you think of, and there's like the big team. But like there should be like 3 or 4 other teams that you also think of that are those like lurkers around. Like everybody can name 3 or 4 Serie A teams, 3 or 4 Bundesliga teams, 3 or 4 Premier Leagues. Even casual fans of soccer can name a couple of the big clubs. And I think that in order for MLS to have the needle move internationally, there just needs to be something else besides Messi. And the league has not done a great job of helping that be created during the window when people could see him. Like if there was ever a time for the league to try and incentivize 3 or 4 other stars to join the league along with Messi.
Right.
Like, that's a missed opportunity, because this would have been, oh, you can not only see Messi, but here Messi is playing against, I don't know, Griezmann, or Messi is playing against, insert star here. I know Paul Pogba's name was being thrown around, but like Harry Kane, or pick a star that you could have, that was available on the open market. Even Timo Werner. Like, here, there's some big names that are going to create some other club dynamics here.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I also think that like MLS sort of messed this up too by it like just pursuing an international audience. Like, this is what Saudi Arabia has done as well. And that will work to an extent of like where there are Messi fans and they want to watch him. There aren't a lot of players like that. But what you could have done is more of a blitz in the United States. That is sort of the market that MLS needs to grow in, is getting young people in the United States to watch MLS and not the Premier League. And Messi is a good way to start down that path. He swallows up a lot of the attention there. Every elementary school is full of pink Messi jerseys, which is good and bad, because it also means in your MLS markets like Cincinnati, they're full of MLS jerseys that don't belong to the local team. So when Messi leaves Miami, that kid that owns the Messi jersey in a Cincinnati elementary school, who does he root for? Who does MLS want him to root for? If it's Cincinnati, then you don't want him wearing the Messi Miami jersey. And if it's Miami, that's fine, but now you kind of have to commit to making Miami the Harlem Globetrotters. So like there absolutely was a missed opportunity to make this more of a broader MLS thing. I also think this is interesting timing for this one too, Chief. Opta, the data collection company, just in like the last week released their new league rankings, where they rank all of the teams in the world and they rank the leagues and sort of how they play against each other. The top 5 won't surprise anybody, with the Premier League up top: Italy, Germany, Spain, and France. 6 was Brazil. 7 Portugal, 8 Belgium, 9 MLS. Top 10 league, according to Opta, doing their measurements. English Championship, by the way, rounds out your top 10. Argentina just outside an 11. So pretty wild.
It's interesting too. And it's like, in many ways, like, okay, here's a question for you then. Let's say that MLS just took the salary handbrakes off the league.
Yeah.
And they just announced next year, free for all. Where do you think the league rankings would be in 5 years?
Oh, top 5 easily. They'd pass France.
Yeah.
They would pass France. Even the shittiest teams like San Jose, let's say, right? Sort of a very low ambition owner, low ambition franchise. I think that team would spend enough money to pull enough like mid Liga MX talent to San Jose that they would suddenly be better than the bottom third of France.
Right.
Like, I think that's the possibility. And then obviously the best teams would skyrocket.
I agree with you on that. It's an uncomfortable thing that like I don't think people like talking about when it comes to international football. And it's a point that I think the pro-rel zealots miss all the time on this, is that as the Bengals have a touchdown erased off the board by a holding penalty. Neat. This team, so great. Brutal. I don't think the appeal of international football in large extent is pro-rel. In fact, I know it's not. I think it's super teams and super clubs. And I think this is sort of getting to where Steve's question was, is that would an LAFC Inter Miami MLS Cup move the needle on the MLS internationally? Sure would, if these two clubs were free to spend whatever they wanted and build super clubs to the point where it's not just, a Saudi thing where it's like we're attracting all these players that are international players and who, or we're catering to an international market, but like, no, we're catering to the best possible soccer players here in the United States. And they become national properties that, like, no matter where you live in this country, you're going to have fans of this team around the country. And are there some kids in Cincinnati that are going to become LA or Miami fans? Maybe. But like, they're watching.
Right.
They're just buying Apple TV. And like, I think that part of the problem with MLS and why the international profile is difficult for them is that their salary structure is specifically set up so that they don't create super clubs. That's part of why this Inter Miami team has kind of been so difficult for the league to accept, because it's the closest this league has ever gotten to a super club.
Right.
And if you took the salary restrictions off, you'd probably end up with 5 super clubs or 6 super clubs, the way it is everywhere else in the world. And long term, I think that would be better for the league's branding in the country and around the world. But it would be bad for places like Cincinnati, because I don't think this team is an ambitious team. We've been told they're not ambitious at a level that would be required to keep up with the Joneses on the coasts.
So that is an interesting point. I think if you took away the risks of relegation, I actually think it would. This is so stupid to say now that I put it all together. It really helps a team like Cincinnati, because yes, it's not that like, oh, they can be low ambition and not kicked out of the league. It means that Cincinnati can take bigger swings on, like, dare I say, more volatile players. Yeah. And if they hit on enough of them in a row, they are suddenly challenging the super teams. Like, if Bupenza lived up to what he could have been the best striker in the league. Like, Denny Bouanga is probably the best striker in the league. And we've heard it from Tom Bogert that, like, a lot of scouts said Bupenza was a better talent. It just, all the other stuff didn't work out. But if you take a risk on like 7 or 8 of those guys as a Cincinnati, now you have the opportunity to swing. In a relegation system, you can take the chance on maybe 1 or 2 of those guys. You can't take a risk on a bunch of those guys. Not to mention, it lets you build slower with academies and things like that. And a team like Philadelphia, let's say, would certainly still go bargain hunting, but could now offer incentives to like actually recruit youth talent like in this country. And they could use their resources in slightly different ways that would be unrestrained, but they would build another interesting model as well. I think it would be more fun. It's like basically what you're saying is, and the geography bears this out, continental Europe, assuming we cut off Russia at like the Ural Mountains or whatever, is roughly the size of the United States. There are roughly 30 to 40 teams in Europe that are regular, like actual decent competitors in the Champions League. That's MLS's model. Like, MLS doesn't need to say, oh, we only have room for a Real Madrid and a Barcelona. MLS needs to say, we have room for a Real Madrid, a Barcelona, an Inter Milan, a PSG, a Manchester United, a Chelsea, an Ajax, a Celtic. You know what I mean? Like, you can come up with 40 teams that sort of fit that profile. And I think that's enough.
It's interesting, too, though, that like what you would need from this league. And I think the league's in the position that it could try this, but it's not my money at the end of the day, is that they just need to outspend revenue for a little bit and just be comfortable taking losses for a few years. And then when that TV deal comes back to negotiate, it's like, we're a lot better than you were the last time you paid us. We need to talk more about that. But I don't know, because I think that the Soccer Blog book club that you're about to get into may deal with some issues with that potentially.
Yeah, so definitely want to. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but the title and a couple of snippets here are definitely worth reading. It comes from Awful Announcing,
which is a great website. Actually, I actually do enjoy Awful Announcing a lot.
Completely agree. Kind of a weird name, especially if you've not been exposed to them in the past. It's sort of like a meta media outlet where they sort of cover the coverage of sports. So they're a good place to see like where, announcers and broadcasters are moving and media rights are moving, and a good wrap up of like the worst stuff said on First Take and Shannon and Sharp and all those things. Anyway, so the title of this is Apple's Paywall is Blunting Lionel Messi's MLS Impact in America. Subtitle here being Lionel Messi's move to America was supposed to be transformative for MLS, but it's gone largely unnoticed behind the Apple paywall. They go on to begin here with, in 2022, Major League Soccer's future was hanging in the balance. America's top domestic league had experienced peaks, including bringing David Beckham over to the States before he retired. Some of the league's West Coast teams in Seattle and Portland experienced extreme popularity relatively quickly, and the fandom was palpable through the television screen. However, the league was struggling to find a TV partner that would help it see a major uptick in value. That is, until the league found Apple. One of the country's technology leaders made its biggest sports bet yet on American soccer. A 10-year, $2.5 billion deal was signed that kept most of MLS exclusive to Apple. Fox and Univision would occasionally be able to air a game, but most of the league would be behind a paywall, which I always find funny because, again, cable is a paywall. The only league on planet Earth that gives games away not on a paywall is the NFL, and that is only for the home market and not for all of its games. So
no. The other thing, too, is that like there's always this reluctance to understand that soccer is always going to be at a disadvantage in these conversations because there is no advertising inventory in soccer.
Yes.
The game does not stop for commercial breaks. Every other sport that is popular in the United States of America is popular primarily because it is easy to monetize on television. That the game will stop for television. And if it doesn't stop for television, it has such control over the game that television necessitates that the game stops to add commercials. Like the most comparable sport in terms of action, constant action to soccer is hockey, the NHL.
Yeah.
The NHL has stoppages in play just long enough to have another face-off or to get the puck back in play. They have TV timeouts. They have media timeouts in hockey. The same way in basketball. Basketball will break at regular intervals specifically for media timeouts. That's how they make money. That's how the rights become valuable. The only way for soccer to have done this in the United States, and I'm convinced that this is part of the reason why soccer never took off in this country, is that you would have had to have some bastardization of the sport that would have upset every purist, where at certain stoppages in play, after a foul or after a dead ball situation, that there would be a 2 to 3 minute media timeout. Yeah. You could do that tomorrow. And if FIFA introduced that, soccer would instantly become one of the most valuable properties on American television overnight.
Yeah. Yeah. Instantly. Like, it is so funny. If you go to a live NFL game, it's gotten to the point where the live in-person experience is, like, I think objectively worse than the TV experience, because you don't realize how much of the stoppage impacts the in-person experience. That there are people on the field in special outfits that are designed to, like, get the referee's attention to just stop the game. It is time for advertising now. Yeah. And like you said, in basketball, it is so funny that, like, there are strategies built around the under 10 or the under 8 minute media timeout. Yes.
Yeah. Your substitution pattern will be, okay, if we get him out of the game now, he can get a minute of rest. Plus, we'll hit the under 16 media timeout and he'll get a full media timeout's worth of rest. Yeah. It's part of the game's strategy now.
Yeah.
And you know what? Here's the fucked up thing. We're not that far off from that in soccer right now.
No.
Like, when you look at the amount of stoppages in play that a soccer match has, if you committed to, especially in a league like MLS that is a summer league, that every match would have a hydration break that you could put commercials in, and you did commercials at one stoppage in play prior to a corner kick in each half, and one stoppage in play prior to during a VAR check, you could probably get 3 commercial breaks in without really disrupting the flow of a soccer match much more than it already is in terms of stoppage. Like if they committed that when a player was down and needed treatment, that regardless of how much treatment the player got, it's going to be 3 minutes minimum that the player is getting treatment and taken off the field. You could work a commercial break in then. Like doing these things, the way the game starts and stops now, it's heresy. And there's a lot of people that are listening to this that are probably like, fuck no, this is why I like soccer. But it's also why this sport has struggled in this country to get a foothold. And it's also part of the reason why MLS's media rights weren't large enough to really transform the league's financials.
Yeah. And what people will miss in all of this as well is that like the Premier League and European soccer gets so much of its sort of like broadcaster love is from the fact that like it is selling a product that people will actively tune into during time slots that they would usually sell to infomercials at like a Sunday at 9 a.m. on NBC. Yeah, you're getting like some weird blender ad or Arsenal Tottenham and 500,000 people are going to tune in.
Like, 900,000 people tune into this. And to them, it's like I can put the little bug up on the screen with an advertisement and I can sell advertisements at the halftime. That's all I need because this was otherwise dead air time for most of these stations.
Yeah, exactly. So I think MLS competing in these sort of prime time, obviously, these days going up against college football and the NFL, it's a tougher sell when these programs are offering more advertisements than product in most of their cases.
Like we were joking about it in the last segment. It's like this is one of the biggest advertising times of the year with all these candidates and IEs buying ad time. Like, and you can't sell them during a soccer match because there's no inventory.
I do think, and I'm shocked we haven't seen this. You see it in on baseball broadcasts. If you go to a game in person, especially a playoff game, a lot of the advertisements behind the plate are green screens, and or they'll cover up like a local ad during a nationally broadcast game with a green screen, so that on the broadcast they can do sometimes a fake rotating ad or just plant their own ad in on the broadcast there. I am shocked that we haven't seen more of the in-stadium digital ads being controlled by the broadcaster, or at the very least, just green screens being put up around the stadium.
When the NHL went to Turner, they had technology where they wipe all of the advertising off the boards and have digital replacement ads. So in person, they'll have ads painted onto the boards. You watch on TV, they will have full board ads that are in motion, like they will move during the game. So like they're animated ads in the that you don't see in the arena. You watch like the AFL, the Aussie rules. They digitally put ads onto the field as well, onto the playing surface.
Yep.
Which I'm shocked that they don't do more of in MLS and in soccer.
They did it once in MLS. It was during the MLS is Back tournament.
That green wall behind the, they had all the
green wall, and they also superimposed the Adidas logo in the center circle.
Yeah.
Which was very funny. Okay, so to get back to the book club, Apple's deal would eventually help incentivize one of the world's most popular soccer players ever to finish his career in America. As a part of Lionel Messi's agreement with Inter Miami, Messi gets a cut of revenue from new subscribers to MLS Season Pass, MLS's streaming service for MLS games. I think that's an important note that I definitely want to come back to as we keep reading here. The streaming service has experienced some relative success. When Messi first jumped on board in 2023, the app experienced 1,690% jump in signups, according to an analytics firm. Apple's own research showed at the time that 15% of those signing up also ended up subscribing to Apple TV Plus. In February, it was reported that Season Pass surpassed 2 million subscribers, but a chunk of the subscribers signed up for the service are season ticket holders. They then go on to quote World Soccer Talk, which is already
noted MLS lovers at World Soccer Talk. Yeah, unbiased source here.
Is a bit much. to again, not to read the whole thing, but the premise of this saying, and we agree in general that like the Messi impact wasn't as big as it could have been or even should have been. But I just get crack up at the idea that like Apple's paywall is blunting his impact to America.
He wouldn't be here.
Yes.
He wouldn't be here if
Apple's
it wasn't for Apple's money.
Is the reason why he's here. What are we doing?
Yeah, like the league, the TV network partnered with MLS to pay him this portion of subscriptions and this cash deal. Like Fox wasn't going to do that. ESPN wasn't going to pay Messi's salary. That wasn't going to happen.
Right. I'm trying to think, like, just to pick on Tampa for a second, Chief. I'm trying to think of, like, you can imagine an article that's like Tom Brady's second team isn't nearly as exciting because it's not New York, it's Tampa. Nobody cares about Tampa. It's like,
it's accurate.
Okay. But like Tampa's the one that put together the package to give him the deal. So what are we doing here?
Yeah, we had the money and we had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Like he wasn't signing for New York, my man. Like that wasn't going to happen. Yeah,
I crack up at that point.
The paywall's blunting his appeal, but like part of the appeal for the paywall was that we get all of Lionel Messi's content on our app. Like there wasn't a reality where he was available for free. I don't get this.
They go on to mention, as my mouse died, so that's going to make the rest of this episode very exciting. They go on to mention that. And I do think this is a good point. Apple and Major League Soccer haven't done much to help their cause either. Lionel Messi hasn't sat down to do any major interviews or podcasts to promote himself or the game since he arrived in the United States. He hasn't sat down with Oprah, Pat McAfee, or Alex Cooper. It's now been over a year since Messi was made available to speak with reporters. Chief, I have a very dumb question. Who is Alex Cooper?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Wait, no, is she is that the Call Her Daddy girl?
Maybe.
I don't know. We might be showing that like we're completely out of touch.
That's very possible. I'm just saying, you put him on Oprah. Oprah's level's pretty high level.
Yeah, that's Call Her Daddy.
Well done.
Yes.
Well done.
Pull that. That's a great pull for me right there. Love that for me. But I mean, this is also a problem with the league.
Yes.
In general, and it's a problem with the sport of soccer, and it's going to continue to be a problem with the sport of soccer until, I don't know, America starts producing a lot of international superstars, and that Messi doesn't speak English, man. Like he just doesn't speak English, or if he speaks it, he does not, as part of his brand, he does not want to speak English doing media. I'm sure he speaks English well enough to communicate. Yeah. But like, there are a lot of players that are like that.
He's also just super shy. He's just he's not.
Like there's a lot of players that were like that. Johnny Cueto, when he was with the Reds, he did no English language interviews. He did everything through an interpreter. Yeah. Why? Because he didn't trust his English and he wanted to make sure that his message was always accurate. Yeah. Shohei Ohtani apparently speaks decent enough English. Everything through an interpreter. A different interpreter than he had a couple months ago, but like
interpreter, gambling buddy, whatever.
Right. And it's something that we've talked about on this podcast before. Like when you, Grayson, and I have debated whether or not, like, you know, asking for certain players, which players do you want? There is always a consideration when we ask to have a player on the show. What's this player's comfortability with English? Because it's difficult in an audio medium when you're doing an interview or even a TV medium that, like, when you're on the Pat McAfee show, you don't want everything to be through an interpreter. It's supposed to be spontaneous. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be lighthearted. Humor doesn't always translate when you're going from language to language. There's just a limited amount of appeal that Messi could have to an English language audience in terms of him personally himself. Now, to a Spanish speaking audience, which I think this league has done a bad job marketing itself to. Yes. Yeah. I think that all those shows that they listed and all those products that they listed right there, I think that what sort of makes this article to me a little poor is that I would be wondering what Spanish language media here in the United States you could have been offering him to sell your product to a Spanish speaking audience in this country.
Yes. Especially when you've got Leagues Cup where like your goal here is to clearly target the Mexican diaspora in the United States that still has loyalties to their club back in Mexico or the family's team back in Mexico. Like, you want to get that second, third generation fan to also, at a minimum, have an allegiance to the local MLS side. And Messi's a great avenue to be advertising that. In a dream world, he's doing, Mexican radio, Mexican TV, or I should say Spanish radio, Spanish TV in whatever market that Miami is playing in and talking to them in Cincinnati, La Mega, right? Like, how cool would it have been to have Messi do some Spanish language promotions before Miami's matches here? Like, I don't know. That would have moved the needle a little bit. So
I agree with him on that point. It's just, I think that that's a problem for all of MLS. And I think that in a perfect world, you would want Lucho Acosta to have better command of English. He speaks English well enough, but like most of his interviews that he does through an interpreter. And that's this isn't like a xenophobic or an anti, speak English, goddamn. It's not any of that. It's just that it is difficult to sell your product in this country when you're not selling the people that you're asking to be your ambassadors and to be your salespeople don't speak the language of the people that you're trying to sell to. It's not impossible, but it makes the job a little harder, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it is happening, but I'll say it definitely could be happening more. If they aren't comfortable in English, you should definitely be utilizing them in Spanish channels. So get them in Spanish radio, get them on Spanish TV, whatever the case may be. No, there you go. I thought that was, I think, an interesting point. I think they brought up some good points, but I have to crack up at the fact that like the Apple TV paywall is preventing Messi's impact. And it's just, it falls down at the fact that Messi wouldn't be here without the paywall.
Yeah,
it's a tired argument.
If anything, it's like, is it blunting his impact? No, I think that Messi is what's driving the league moving and surviving going to this paywall.
Yes.
Like that's what kept things afloat when it otherwise could have been very out of sight, very out of mind.
Yeah. It also does this weird like assumption that I've seen a lot of people do, which is like, and they mention it on this, is like, oh, they're not on Fox anymore. And Fox now has like all this cool college football programming in the NFL where they could have been cross promoting MLS. And I just have to sit there and be like, well, MLS was with Fox for like 20 years and they never did that.
Yeah, they never did that. ESPN never did that. ESPN didn't show MLS highlights or cross promote with MLS when they had the property. Like they had that ESPN FC show and they never mentioned MLS, even though they own the rights to MLS. It was all European based. All the commentators were European based. All the hosts were European based. No, I also think that there's a disconnect with a lot of these interviews and a lot of these articles too, of it feels very last century medium and very, yeah, they don't show MLS highlights on SportsCenter. My man, nobody watches SportsCenter anymore. The era of people waiting up at night to watch SportsCenter, it's a bygone era.
Yeah.
People have the ability to get highlights on their phone and they get clips on their phone. And I think if anything, Apple has been demonstrably worse and not as good as it could have been about getting highlights up and getting stuff onto their platform and utilizing Apple's platform. But it's a different era. And how things are shared, how things go like viral, how people consume content is just different than it was 10, 15 years ago. And it's going to be different in 5 years. And it's going to be different in, 10 years from now. And what I give Apple credit for, what I give the league credit for, is that it seems like it's the only one of the major sports that's thinking about what the next 10 years looks like, because they missed the boat in the previous 10 years. So they're at least trying to move forward to what the next 10 years looks like. And it ain't people sitting watching cable. It just isn't. It's a model that's dying out. And it's a model that is going to continue to struggle as the people that are our parents' age, stop paying for cable.
Yeah. And I
Like
think
our kids, the kids of our generation will never have a cable subscription. They just won't.
No, my kids, like you said, with with my daughter's newfound hatred of Sherrod Brown, like only just recently introduced the idea of ads.
And they hate it. Like this next generation, they despise ads. Like when I met my wife hates ads. And it's like always been a funny thing to me that like how much she despises advertising. Whereas like to me, it's perfectly normal that every 7 minutes when you're watching something, we stop and they shout at you to buy a product. Like right. I deal with this as normal because I'm a sports addict. And like I have always just watched live television for sports. She hates it. But as much as she hates it, and I thought that was weird when I first met her, everyone I know that's like younger and like the Gen Z under 18 crowd that I know, that I deal with or I encounter, like they all despise this shit. Like having the ad package or not having the ad free package, you may as well just be announcing to them that you're irredeemably poor. Right. It's like bro doesn't even have the ad-free package. It was like the way you viewed the last person in your friend group to pay for the upgrade for the HD cable. That's the way they view the people that don't have the ad-free package.
I was going to say, Chief, it's like in our era when you'd go out with friends and somebody ordered water for dinner. Yeah. Like, oh, shit. Did you lose your job, man? I was on one of those Cincinnati brew bus tour things for like a friend's something happened in his life. And we were all on one of those. And we were the oldest people on the bus by a solid like 10, 15 years. And somebody this also happened when I was on my way to a concert at Red Rocks last year. We took a bus to get up to the show. Both situations on a bus where they had the availability to connect to the Bluetooth or connect to the aux cord, and you could DJ on the bus. And in both cases, the person that connected the aux cord had a Spotify that wasn't premium and ads were playing during their playlist. Oh, these people were being booed. They were being booed by their peers for not having the ad-free playlist. I love that so much. I've definitely seen in my time when I worked at the Sign Museum, there would be people that would really try to cheap out on like the DJ situation, and they'd play their playlist, but then like the Spotify ad would come on during the
kill the vibe. Yeah.
Oh, it's awful. Look, if you're going to do that, just buy the 1 month for your wedding.
Right.
Come
and then
on.
Cancel afterwards. Like, remember to cancel, but cancel afterwards. Quickly.
Right. Oh, God. Well, Chief, like I said, my mouse died. So whenever you'd want to end this podcast, I'm going to run up and grab my charging cable for it. So
neat.
I can't end it until you do.
Fuck your mouse and go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy PostCast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. I also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. if you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening. Hold, please. Oh, I guess I should end the recording at least. Jeez.
Can you do that?
Well,
without
I
a mouse?
can't. Oh my God, that's the problem. Oh.
We're just gonna keep going.
Do-do-do-do. Too many chords that don't do what I want to do. What? You the one? You are not. How do I have a million chords that aren't the chord I need?
A lot going on in that closet.
I found it.
There you go. Job well done.
Jesus Christ. Please fit.
The recording's still going.
Oh, we're still going. Wait. And